This is Matt Scott. It's funny because Kevin put Reservoir Dogs below Pulp Fiction, so and you're right. That seems to be the more common theme. I would do that as well, but neither of those movies podium on my list. Yep.
Holy hell!
Yeah, I know, and I like those, and those are the first ones I had seen, and I had seen them in probably middle school. But so my first memory of Tarantino was probably in elementary school, actually, with my mom talking about it with Pulp Fiction and Travolta and Samuel L. All of those guys, and
Bruce
also
Willis.
yeah, and Bruce Willis. Well, I also remember in Space Jam, there's a scene where Elmer Fudd and Yosemite Sam dress up as Travolta and Samuel L.
Yeah.
And Dick Dale's
And they play
playing.
the surf rock.
Yeah, Dick Dale's playing, and they had the guns. That was the first time, and I kind of knew what it was. Like, it was conscious. Like, it wasn't something I knew from the movie, but I knew it was in the movie. So, like, I kind of got the reference. So that was the first kind of memory I had. Later on, obviously, I think we all fell in love with his quirky style, his non-linear storytelling, as you guys have already kind of touched on. And I really like, and I know that Daniel probably agrees with this, is how he divides them into, or the movies into chapters, kind of like a novel. Like I always thought that was kind of cool, clever, a way to put print onto the screen. I love how he uses the kung fu and violence as narratives, always having a sense of humor and awareness within the movie at the same time with that violence. So he's definitely one of my all-time favorite directors, like top to bottom. There's not really a movie that I say I dislike. I really can't. I'd say The Hateful Eight might be the slowest, but I still saw it in theaters and enjoyed it. And so I think he's got to be in the top because of that. I'm just his overall breadth of work. There's really not a weakness, and kind of what Daniel said, like you expect that Nintendo label. So I know, I'm sure you guys agree, but it was really hard. And obviously, with some of you guys putting 5 movies in there, it was hard to narrow.
Yeah.
So I struggled. It was very challenging to get it to 3. So my number 3, I actually put the movie that you guys haven't seen yet, which is I'm kind of sad about. But Once Upon
Spoiler
a Time in
alert.
Hollywood.
Yeah. Don't spoil that for us.
I won't. Actually, I don't have any spoilers.
No, you should.
No,
You owe me.
I do owe John some spoilers. So my number 3 was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love some old timey Hollywood hack storylines. The
Hollywood
actors.
loves Hollywood.
Yeah, and this is 1969, 1970 Hollywood actors, and it's guys that have lost their edge. So like DiCaprio is this basically this hack or this has been, and you got this whole crazy Charles Manson plot going around, which again won't spoil too much. There's some revenge porn in there, shocking.
So you're telling me it's complicated?
There's some crazy stuff going on, and honestly, seeing Cliff Booth, who's Brad Pitt in the movie, drive around L.A. in like the 1970s before it's big city L.A. I mean, it's still L.A., but it's not skyscraper L.A. For 3 hours makes that movie feel like a breeze, like it's like he's driving in that sky blue Volkswagen that he has. So
What kind of Volkswagen?
it's
Beetle?
it's a Gia, so it's a convertible.
Oh.
And so yeah, Brad Pitt in that movie is like a vibe. John, it'll instantly podium for you because of Brad Pitt's character.
The vibes.
The vibe, his vibe in that is an all timer. It might be my favorite movie of him in. We'll see. Maybe Moneyball. I'm not sure. So Pitt in this movie is definitely one of my all-time favorites, and probably my favorite character, Tarantino character, barely edging out Beatrix Kiddo, which leads to my number 2. Number 2 would be Kill Bill. even though I had seen a handful of Tarantino movies growing up, when we saw Kill Bill for the first time, I think it was the time it resonated that that director had hit me, and it made sense, like why I enjoyed his movies. And maybe if I was at an age where Pulp Fiction had came out and we were in college, that might have been different, but it just hit right at the right time. And so Kill Bill really resonated. I don't think there's anyone as badass at that time than Uma Thurman as the bride, or Beatrix Kiddo. The throwback kung fu vibe's awesome, mixed in with that storybook chapter telling, the modern filmmaking. It's just awesome to see on screen.
Her as a hero,
Oh,
like,
it's so cool.
I can't think of many more characters more heroic than that.
There are very few characters that you want to watch kill a ton of people more than her. Like,
Yeah.
she's in that top 10 with Rambo. You know, all those guys. She's one of them for sure.
I love it because it is like this. It's structured like those old kung fu movies where you have to beat a guy to beat the next guy to beat the next guy to beat the next guy to finally face the final boss.
Me too. It's that Mortal Kombat feeling, like that next level. I exactly 100% agree.
Yeah, something about that. I thought that with in Kill Bill, did they go to the black and white in the sword fighting scene because it was so violent that they couldn't do it in color? I remember hearing that rumor, and I don't know if that was a rumor or if that was actually true.
I don't know. I assumed it was a throwback.
Yeah, I assumed it was a stylistic decision.
So yeah, and kind of to end on that, I just felt like this is probably where he being Tarantino, is where he's most at home in his movies, with the kung fu, with this eclectic movie making, all of that. I think Tarantino is most at home during this movie. So
yeah, feels like he got to do exactly what he wanted to do with that movie.
100%. So my number one, though, is not necessarily based on my favorite movie, but it's just the most complete movie, in my opinion, at least of his, is Inglourious Bastards.
Hey.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't. It's crazy that he has never won. I was doing a little research. He's won 2 Oscars, both for writing, for Django Unchained and Pulp Fiction. He actually has never won Best Director, which is crazy. It's almost like he's going to win on his 10th movie no matter what. Like, they're just going to give it to him, right?
It feels very much like a Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, where it's like you did something so like over such a period of time that was so great, we're going to give you every Oscar this one time.
Well, it's also like it's announced that it's going to be his last movie.
Well, that's what I mean.
So like he's really picking it.
Yeah, 100%. He's going out with a bang. So he was up for Best Writer and Director, along with 6 other nominations as a whole with this crew in this movie. The only one that actually won was Christoph Waltz. Big surprise, Best Supporting Actor. And I will say, one of my favorite things about this movie, and we've kind of talked about, is Christoph Waltz and that opening scene.
The feature that makes me such an effective hunter of the Jews is, as opposed to most German soldiers, I can think like a Jew.
But he's my favorite villain of all time as for Tarantino, which is crazy considering my number 2 film is named after the villain of the movie, and another villain is Hitler.
Right.
and my favorite villain is Christoph Waltz for Tarantino.
Dude,
it's that.
Dude, that whole opening scene, you're on edge. You're just like
it's some of the best cinema has to offer. I mean, that scene,
it's insane.
It really is. So I just felt like this was the most complete movie, like I talked about. The acting's top notch. Brad Pitt kills it just like he always does. The storyline is clever. him altering everything and the dialogue, which we've already talked about.
Yeah, Brad Pitt got involved in this because they actually had a beer together and asked if he wanted to be in a movie.